Hi guys, my name is Paul Adaroche, and in this video we'll be looking at object-oriented programming. So the goal here is to put some practicality to what we've learned. So, all right, let's get started. So, what we're gonna do, we're just gonna work on something simple. On your last project, so I picked this up. This is just, yeah, you can remember this project. Okay, I think some of you worked on this. So I'm going to work on this register part. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick this up and see how we can um, add some object-oriented programming to this. Okay, it's simple and straightforward. So the goal here is simple. When a user comes to your website and registers to be in your library, to use your library, you can get all of this data, save them on a database. For this, we're going to use local storage to make it pretty simple. But ideally, real life example, real life scenario, you're going to take this data, push it to the database where you're going to store it and store the user, and user can sign up and all of that later. But for this, for the scope of this, we're going to use the local storage to store this data, and when user we can get all of this data and see it. Okay. So let's go to a code base. This is just a simple code base, and all of these you can see here. I gave each of these input field a class name, an ID of their various names, and all of that. So we're going to grab all of these. You're going to get the value of this when the user enters it, and we're going to use the submit button. Submit button as a type of submit, and when you click on this, so we're going to add an event listening to submit and get those data. Okay. The first thing I'm going to do is to create a script. You can create an index. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be index or JS. It can be anything as long as you connect it properly to your HTML. So created the script, the JS stack file. And the next thing I'm going to do is to connect them. So I'll just come here and type script here. And I'll connect it to the script.js file, which is right here. Cool. So I've connected the HTML file, which is this. So the JavaScript file, which is this. And the first thing I'm going to do is to test if this is working. Okay. So how do we do that? I'm just going to do console.log to just put in hello world just to be sure that this works. Why this is here? So I'll take this down. Okay. So I'm going to save this and check. Just come to my dev tools and see, go to my console, and boom, I have hello world. So that's fine. So the HTML and CSS are connected, so we can make progress. All right. So let's start working. Let's work on this and let's see how we can get all of this data, apply some object-oriented programming, take this data, store it, and yeah, let's move. The first thing I'm going to do is to get all input fields. So I want to get the input field values, and you know how to go about that. So I'll start with the first thing, which is first name. So I'm going to grab the first name. Is equal to documents dot get element by ID. So I'm getting by ID because I added ID to all of them. Okay, ID of first name. So I'm just going to grab this. So this is the ID. I'm going to grab this ID and I'm going to put it here. So I'll do the same for every other thing. Last name is next. So I'm going to grab, sorry, this is the input field. I'm going to grab last name and So I'm going to duplicate this. There's a shortcut for that. You click on your shift, press down your shift button, then press down your Alt if you're using Windows, or Option if you're using Mac, and hold them down. So you're going to hold your shift button and your Alt or Option button, then click your down button. Boom, duplicated. Okay. So I'm going to change this to last name, and I'm going to change this to last name, the ID of last name. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm just going to grab the others, which is user. So I'll try to do that quickly, and boom, duplicate. So the next one is email. Where are you? Email. So I'm just going to paste, duplicate. So there's password. I'm going to grab password. Then what next? There's the last one. Oh, I thought, okay, bio is the last one here. So the ID is bio. So I'm gonna grab that. Okay, cool. So that's the first thing we're gonna do. What's the next thing we'll do? We can add event listeners. So we can add event listeners. To form. So we're gonna grab the form. I'm gonna do that first. So the goal is simple. When you click on submit, you want something to happen. That's the major reason for JavaScript. It adds interactivity. So currently, if you click on this, nothing happens. Okay. But what we want is that you even see this top here has gone to another URL. So the goal is when we come here, you type all of this, click submit, we want something to happen, and that's what event listener does. So first thing, we're going to grab the form. We're going to add an event listener to the form, but we need to grab it first. So we grab it by doing get element by ID also, and let's grab the form. Yes, it. So I'll go to the top of this. So I'm going to put an event listener on the entire form, which is this. So the ID is form. I'm going to grab that and put it here. Okay. So I've gotten the form, and the next thing is to add an event listener. So I'm going to say form.add event listener. So what am I listening to? I'm listening to the submit. The submit action and here. So I'm going to add an event listener called submit. And whenever we get submit, what happens? This is where the event comes in. So I'll take the event and I can do anything I want with that event. So the first thing I'm going to do is to prevent default reload. So the last time we clicked on that, we had a reload. So what happens here is if I click submit right now, you can pay attention to this URL. You see how it changes. You can see there's bio. So we don't want that. Okay. So I'm going to save this now. And this will prevent that from happening. So if I click on this now, you can see nothing changes here. The URL is still the same. Yeah. So that's the first thing we're going to do. And we're going to do a couple of other things here. So when you submit, a couple of other things should happen. What should happen? We should be able to get all of this data and store the data. So we're going to implement all of that here. Okay. All right. So let's leave that for now. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to instantiate a class. And this class is for the account. So I'm going to call it a class name of account. You can call it anything. You can call it user or whatever you prefer. Okay. All right. So this will have a constructor. So I'm not going to explain all of this because I assume you've gone through the videos and you understand couple of these things. So all I'm going to do is to add practicality to some of these things so it make more sense to you on your project. Okay. All right. So this constructor, I'm going to grab all of these and create um an object out of this constructor. So this of first name is equals to first name. Okay. So I'm going to do the same thing for other things here. Okay. So I'm going to get last name and do the same thing. Yeah. User. Okay. Email. Then we have password. Sorry. Okay, we have password. And the last one we have bio. All right, so we've created an instance of all of these things. So when we create a new account, we can create a new instance with all of this data. Okay, so that's what we're going to do next. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create an account instance. All right, so how do we do that? Pretty simple and straightforward. We're going to create an account. I'm going to use a small letter here. So I can call it user account if it makes more sense. Okay. So this user account is going to create a new instance of this account and it's going to take all of these parameters. Okay. So this first name is just the first name. So let me show you something. So let me comment this out first. And I want to console.log first name. So I want you guys to read on what I'm doing. Okay, so if I enter a first name, for instance, my first name is Paul, and I click on submit, see what happens. It just gives me the input field because I'm actually grabbing the input field with an ID of first name. So when you do that, you just get this input field. Okay, so that's what is returned here. But I don't want the input field, I want the value that I entered, which is Paul. So whatever my name is, Kingsley, Daniel, I don't know. So whenever when you enter into this on my website, I want to get that value. So all I need to do here is to get the value. So instead of console logging just first name, I can say first name dot value. Okay. So when I click on save and I enter my name again, Paul, and I click on submit, you can see Paul, right? Cool. So that's what I want to grab. I want to grab same thing for every other thing here. So I'm gonna do another one, last name dot value. And I'm going to add my name and surname now. Paul, my surname, my second name is, my last name is Adaroche. So when I click on submit now, you can see my name is being collected. So what do I want to do with this? I want to do all of this data. I want to get them and create an instance, an object instance of this using this. Okay. All right. So I'm going to create a new account and this account will take first name dot value. Okay. So I can try to come down here and do that. First name dot value. Okay. So I can duplicate this and put last name dot value. So I'm going to do the same thing for every other thing. So I'm going to get everything and create an instance out of that. Okay. All right. Email, then password, bio. Okay, awesome. So let's try to console log this and see what is being returned when we do this. So, all right. So I'm going to fill everything this time around. I'm going to put the username of follow, and I'll just put a random follow@yokme.com. Then a password of 12345. Sorry, 123456789. Okay. So it should buy you. I'm just gonna type something. Paul is a software engineer. Awesome. Oh, sorry. So when I do this and I click on submit, see what happens. We have this, which is the bio. Oh, I didn't put value here. Something is wrong. So yeah, I put value, bio.value. It's not giving me. Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, so this is a problem. So I'm not instantiating it well properly. Okay, get element by ID user, email password bio. Oh, this is okay. So where's the problem coming from? There's a problem somewhere. I'm gonna get it out. Probably you have seen the issue. Um, get element by ID. Password bio. So why is this two giving me the right value and the others are not? Mm, this dot user. Oh yeah. So the reason is I'm not passing it here. Yeah. So it's like that. So I need to pass them here. Yeah. Sorry about that. As part of it, your ability to debug is very important. Okay. So that's why I was getting that. So I need to pass everything here. Some of you probably would have seen that before I saw it. Fine. So save that. So let's do that again. Follow in my follow shopme.com and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then Paul is a software engineer. All right. So I'm gonna click on save, submit again, and you're gonna see everything this time. So you can see bio, everything. Right. So we've made progress, right? We created a constructor, we're able to create an instance of it. So when another user comes in, the name is Daniel. So we're going to create an instance of that using this constructor. Okay. Yeah. So this makes sense. Right. So the next thing we're going to do, we've gotten this data. What do we do with this data? How do we manage this data? How do we store this data? Right? So that's the next thing we're going to do. So I'm going to remove all of these console.log. We don't need them again. I'm going to take off these. We don't need it again. So what I would do now is to create a data. Okay, so I can put it anywhere. I can put it on top or here. um did I put? So I'll put it on top. So let's come here. Before the add event listener. So I would, what would I call this now? Initiate data. Yeah, data model or something. Okay, so I'm going to create an empty array of data first. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to push data to like local storage, right? That's what I want to do. And if you don't have any idea of local storage, you can read up on it. Probably I'll share something on that, but I'm not going to go in depth into that. But local storage is something that's in your browser. So when you come to your browser, go to DevTools, come to application, you have local storage, you have session storage, and some other things, cookies, and all of that. They are all being stored here. Okay. So what we're going to do here is so follow closely. So what I'm going to do is initiate a local storage and try to get data from it. Check if there is data in there. So there's what I call JSON.parse is to parse your data from your local storage. Okay. Mm. So what I'll do here is local storage. So local storage is part of your JavaScript default stuff. So local storage to get item. And what you're doing now, I'm trying to get data from local storage, okay? And you add the keywords, so you can use anything. You can use account, so I'll use account here, or you can use user. So I'll change that to okay. Let's leave it at that. So if there's data, it will save the data here. If there's no data, it's gonna save back this. So I don't want it to be null. That's why I'm doing this. So this is an alt or you should have learned this. So if there is data, I want you to save this data into this data variable. If there's no data, save an empty array back. Okay, so that's what I want to do. The next thing I will do here is to check if user exists. So what this is a common practice in practical real life scenarios where you don't want someone to create multiple accounts. It's one email or one username. What happens? There will be so many people with that same username. When they try to log in, which of the accounts? So it's common with social media and most platforms, Slack and all of that. You can only have one user, right? So what they do when you try to log in, they check to see if that user exists. If he exists, you know this user has been taken, use another one. If you try to use the same email twice, they'll check the database. Oh, this email exists already in our database. You can't log in with this, so try another email. So check if account exists. Okay, so that's the next thing we're going to do here. So how do we do that? We can come here and create like a function or something. Does account exist? More like a question. Okay. So we can do a normal function here. So this will take an email and it will check this data. So what I'm doing here, I'm going to database, the local storage to get the data. So I'm going to check this data. If this account you are trying to open here, if it exists. So let me use some if functions. I'll say if no data, that means if data is empty or there's no data on your local storage, what should happen? You should let's see. Um you should not do anything actually. So I'm going to take this off. You should just return. Or you can do an alert, or it's not necessary. So we're gonna do that. If there's no user, I'll just return that. And the next thing I'm gonna do is to do like a check. So do like a check here. And this check, I'm gonna use some JavaScript keywords, JavaScript functions or types, yeah, to check. So there's a find keyword, you can check it on Google what JavaScript find keyword does. So it just returns this, where you would check all the email. So what I'm doing, I'm going to this data. So if there's actually data, if there's no data, it will just end here. It won't come here. That's what return does. It ends it here. Okay. Sorry. So I'm going to data.find, and I'm going to find all the email in data. So value.email. I'm going to check all the email and check if it matches this email I'm passing here. Okay, right. So I'm going to pass an email. I'm going to call this function in this class, right? I'm going to call this, and I'm going to check if the email I'll pass would exist. So what this will do is to take all the data and loop through it. If it exists, it will return that. If it doesn't exist, it will return nothing. So I'm going to use the return statement, and return check. Okay. Yeah. So how do we use this now? So I'm going to come here to check if it exists. So I'm going to use this. This is an instance which I've created. I'm going to say this does account exist. Okay. And now I'm going to pass this email. So I'm going to pass this. So I'm going to pass user account dot email. Okay. So remember we console logged this initially. Where is it? We console logged this user account. Okay. And it gave us this. So I'm going to say user account dot email. So I'm passing follow@yahoo.com. And what happens here is it takes this, it's follow dot at yahoo.com, and come here. Then if there's data in my local storage, which I'm getting from here, if there's no data, it just returns and there's no data. But if there is data, I'm going to do a find method that checks all the email in the database, the local storage, and check if they are equal to, sorry, I'm supposed to use this identifier. If any of the email is equal to this email I'm passing, which is follow@yahoo.com, it will return that email, right? Okay. Yeah, so that's what I'm gonna do. But I have to store this in something. Constant email check. I'm using a lot of constants. Yeah, so that's what I'm gonna do. So let's console log this now. Console log email check. Let's see what it will return. Okay. All right, I've saved that. So I'm gonna put in all of these. Follow at shopme.com. Gonna put the password. So I'm just going to type something random. Paul is good. Okay. Yeah. And when I submit, so it's undefined because there's no data. So yeah, there's no data in the database. So when it checks, so I can either return true or false or something, but there's no data, so you return nothing. Return false. I can return false here. So let's try that again. Oh, this is a lot of work. So let me just put something else. I'll just type random thing. Good. Okay. Oh, still showed undefined. So let's leave that. And um what I'm gonna do next is very simple. Okay. What I'm gonna do next is to save this data on the local storage, right? So how do we do that? Okay. When I say if this exists, if this is not undefined, if this is not um if this email actually do exist, or if it exists, right? So if this email I just entered exists, then I should give you an alert on the front end. So I'm going to use alert because it's something I can easily do. I'll say user already exists. User already exists. You can put more information, use another account, email or something, but I'll just leave it like this. Then I'll throw an error so you can see it on your console. So throw new error, and I'm going to type the message, the same message. User already exists. Okay. All right. So this is fine. So we are done with this. Um, else, if the image check is false, is true, sorry, it's false, and the image doesn't exist, then I can push data into this. Okay. So I'm going to use another keyword. So take note of all of these things and do more research about it. So the push is to push data into an array. So there's an array here. So currently it's either there's data coming from local storage using the get local storage or get item, or there's an empty array. So whichever case, I'm going to push this user. Okay. So I'm going to push the name, last name, everything into this data. Okay. Then the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to set item. Okay. I'm going to use local storage dot set item. Currently it's empty, right? Currently, your local storage with this keyword called account is empty. So I'll show you all of that now. So if you come here and go to local storage, so I have the keyword user. So I don't have the keyword account, but I can take this off. You can actually delete from here if you want to. So let's say it's totally empty. There's no account here. So if it's empty, you can set item. And the keyword, I want to store the key as not user, I want to store it as account. And what I want to pass there is this user, this data, okay? So, but I have to stringify it so you can see it, or it will just be showing objects on your local. So JSON.stringify is how you stringify the data you want to push. So I'm pushing data because I've pushed this account into this data. So data.push means I want to add this user I've just added now. I want to pass it into this data. Then I'll set my local storage using the keyword called accounts, and I'm going to save it. Okay. All right. Can we test this already? So let's try this and see what we have now. So let's put in Paul. Use Paulo at yopme.com. Use password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then I'll say Paul is a software engineer. All right. So when I click on submit, something's wrong. Okay. Okay. Let's check. Oh, you can see that these details is stored already now, right? So you can see the details on my local storage with the keyword accounts. You can see all of these details, right? So I'm going to try to submit again. Let me see. Okay. All right. So I'm going to type the same thing I just typed before and see if I'll get this error. You know, I've put in some validations here. If I use the same, so I'm going to change this to account. All right. Okay, so I'm going to say Paul, use the same username, use the same email. So it's the email I'm using to check. So Paulo at yopme.com. I'm going to put the same password. Yeah, I'm going to put the same password. And I'm going to just type random thing here. Okay. So let's see what happens. Let's go to my console. I'm going to click on this. Can you see this? Account already exists, right? Account already exists. And it's also through that error. There's something wrong here. So let me click OK. Yeah, you can see the error. User already exists. So I'll change this to account also. Awesome. Cool. Then when you go to, let's go back to our local storage. Remember, it's application. You can see it didn't add. It's just one. So it should restrict people from using one account twice, so you can query your database easily. So I'm going to try another name now. Let's try John Doe. Okay. And I'm going to use a different username. I'm going to use a different account. So I'll say Poladaro J, or let's say use John Doe, since it's John Doe's account. John Doe at yopmail.com. Yeah, this is a different email now. So I'm just going to type in John Doe is a wise man. So when I click on submit, you see what happens. Can you see? We now have two users. First one is Paul, and the second one is John Doe. So multiple users can apply, can use your platforms. As if I try to do this again, boom, I'll get this account already exists. So this is just a simple stuff. You can see I use this to check this. So yeah, we can create another function that will give us I can do a get all accounts here, and this should just return. Okay, so what I'll do here, I'll get all the data here. Let me see. I can return data. Okay, So let me try this out. So how do we get this data here? So you can work on this, right? So this will give you all the data. That's this. Okay. Um, I can do something like that under here. Okay. Let me try. Let me try something interesting here. So let me create a div here, and I would do like an H1 tag and say all users, all accounts. Let's see how that looks like here. Oh, it's at the left. Hmm. Let me see. So I'll take it out of here. Let's take it under here. Can this work? Yeah, I want to put it underneath. So I can do something interesting here. Let's go. So this function will run by itself. It should just check if there is data, it will return all the data. So I'm gonna give this an ID. I'm gonna do like I do a div here. I'm gonna give it a class of accounts. Okay. Yeah. So let's do something interesting here. I'll see if it's possible to so I'll come here now and I'll say get all accounts, and yeah, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'll say constant account equal to document dot get element by ID account. So I'm gonna change that to account to ID. So I'm come here instead of class, I'm gonna use ID. Okay. So what will I do here?